The Galactic Council prided itself on maintaining order. For thousands of years, they had ruled the stars, bringing civilization and structure to every species under their control. War was a thing of the past. Rebellion was unheard of. The laws of the universe were clear. Every species had its place, and those who tried to rise above it were swiftly crushed. But then, the humans arrived. At first, they were just a rumor, whispers among traders about a strange new species that did not follow the rules. The Council ignored it. Every now and then, some primitive race would appear, thinking they could challenge the galactic order. They always fell in line. But this time, something was different. The first contact. The Council's deep space scanners picked up something unusual, an unidentified fleet, moving fast, heading straight for neutral space. The Council dispatched a small patrol to intercept. It was supposed to be routine, just another primitive species making a mistake. The patrol ship's captain, Admiral Velarax, opened a channel. His voice carried the authority of the Galactic Council. "Unknown fleet, you are trespassing in controlled space. Identify yourselves and prepare for inspection." A moment of silence. Then a reply crackled through the speakers. "We are human, and we do not recognize your authority." Velarax frowned. It was a bold statement, one that no species had dared to make in centuries. "Surrender your ships immediately, or we will open fire." The human commander's voice was calm, almost amused. "You can try." The first battle. Velarax gave the order. His ships fired. Energy beams sliced through the void, targeting the human fleet. And then, something impossible happened. The human ships moved in ways that defied logic. They twisted, turned, and dodged with perfect precision, as if they knew where every shot would land before it was even fired. Then they struck back. Velarax's fleet didn't just lose. They were obliterated within minutes. The survivors sent frantic distress signals to the Council. The last transmission was filled with confusion and terror. "They don't fight like anyone else. We can't predict them. We can't." Then silence. Panic in the Galactic Council. The Council convened in an emergency meeting. The room was filled with tension as reports came in. The human fleet was still advancing. They weren't attacking planets or conquering territory. They were just moving forward, as if they had a destination only they knew. The Council leaders argued. "We need to negotiate. Negotiate. We need to destroy them before they become a real threat." But how? They crushed our fleet like it was nothing. Fear spread like wildfire. Humanity was not supposed to exist in the galactic order. They were unpredictable, and unpredictable was dangerous. The message that shook the galaxy. Then, a transmission arrived. It was from the human fleet. The Council hesitated before opening it. The screen flickered, revealing a human commander. His expression was calm, unreadable. His message was simple. "We know what you did. We know everything. And now, it's our turn." The Council members exchanged uneasy glances. What did the humans know? What were they planning? No one had answers. But one thing was certain. The Galactic Council had lost control. And for the first time in history, they were afraid. The Galactic Council was in chaos. The human fleet was advancing, but they weren't launching invasions or making demands. They were simply moving, their purpose unknown. The Council had ruled the stars for millennia, shaping the fate of every species under their dominion. They had crushed rebellions, erased histories, and rewritten the truth where needed. And now, it seemed, one of those buried truths had returned. A forbidden history, deep within the grand archives of the Council. High Chancellor Vorquin stood before a secured vault. He hesitated before entering, knowing that what lay inside could destroy everything they had built. The room was silent except for the hum of ancient servers. A historian activated a hidden file, one that had been locked away for thousands of years. A hologram flickered to life, displaying a planet, Earth. The council members watching the footage whispered in shock. Earth was supposed to be a myth, a failed world, a species that had been erased. Yet, the records told a different story. 3,000 years ago, humans were rising too fast. Their technology, their adaptability, it was unnatural. They were unpredictable, and that made them dangerous. The council decided there was only one option. The projection shifted. It showed fleets of council warships descending upon Earth, orbital bombardments, cities turning to dust, a world reduced to silence. Vorquin's heart pounded. The humans should have been wiped out. No one had ever escaped a council purge. And yet, they had returned. The survivors. A young aide spoke hesitantly. Chancellor, what if humans didn't die out? What if they survived and evolved beyond our understanding? The room fell silent. No species had ever defied the council before. No civilization had ever come back from total extermination. If the humans had survived for 3,000 years in the shadows, what had they become? A message that changed everything. The council's emergency session was interrupted by an urgent transmission. It came from the human fleet. The image of a human woman appeared on the main screen. Her gaze was steady, her voice calm, but there was something in her eyes, something ancient. She smiled. You tried to erase us. You failed. Now we will show you what 3,000 years of evolution looks like. Then the transmission ended. Silence filled the council chambers. The humans had not fired a single shot. They had not made any threats. Yet somehow, the entire Galactic Council felt like they had already lost. The council chamber was silent. Every delegate, every chancellor, every ruler of the galactic powers sat frozen in their seats. The human transmission had ended, leaving only a single sentence echoing in their minds. Now we will show you what 3,000 years of evolution looks like. No threats, no demands, just a promise. The council's growing fear. High Chancellor Vorquin turned to his advisors. His voice, usually commanding, now trembled. How is this possible? The analysts scrambled for answers. Humans were supposed to be extinct. There is no record of any survivors. We destroyed their homeworld. There was nothing left. Yet reality proved them wrong. The humans had survived. A hidden exodus. A junior intelligence officer hesitated before speaking. Chancellor, there were rumors. Whispers from the outer colonies. Stories of strange ships, disappearing outposts, unexplained advancements. The council had dismissed them as myths. Yet, what if those myths had been warnings? What if humanity had never died, but instead escaped? What have they become? The holoscreens flickered again. New images appeared, the human fleet. But these were not the humans of old. Their ships were unlike anything in the known galaxy, sleek, efficient, and radiating energy beyond comprehension. These vessels, they defy our understanding. They bend space, move through void storms like they are nothing. Their technology surpasses even our most advanced designs. If this was what humanity had achieved in exile, what else had they become? A single decision stands between survival and annihilation. The council chamber erupted into arguments. Some wanted to negotiate, others wanted to flee, and the most desperate among them wanted to launch a preemptive strike. Chancellor Vorquin closed his eyes. He had lived through countless wars, had seen empires rise and fall, but this time felt different. Humanity had not come for revenge. They had not fired a single shot, and yet everyone in the galaxy was already afraid. His eyes snapped open as a new transmission arrived. The humans were responding. This time, it was just 3 words. We are here. And in that moment, Vorquin realized the truth. The war was already over. The silence in the Galactic Council chamber was suffocating. Every leader, every diplomat, every war strategist sat frozen, their minds struggling to process what had just happened. The human transmission had been brief, but its impact was devastating. 3 simple words had shattered the illusion of control they had maintained for thousands of years. We are here. No threats, no declarations of war, just a statement of presence that carried the weight of an entire forgotten nightmare. For centuries, they had believed humanity was extinct, wiped from existence, when Earth was reduced to nothing but lifeless rock. Yet now, they were back, and no one knew what they had become. High Chancellor Vorquin's claws tapped against the armrest of his chair, his usually steady breathing now shallow. His mind raced with possibilities, each one worse than the last. How had they survived? Where had they gone? And more importantly, why had they returned now? The fleet that had emerged from the void bore no resemblance to the primitive warships humanity had once used. These vessels moved like nothing they had ever seen, defying known physics, bending space in ways the most advanced civilizations could only theorize about. They'd radiated energy signatures beyond comprehension, and the sheer precision of their formation spoke of a civilization that had mastered war to an unfathomable degree. The analysts whispered theories, scrambling to compare the ships to any known design, but nothing matched. This was something new, something terrifying. A low murmur spread through the chamber as a new data stream appeared on the central holo display. The humans had sent another message. No voice, no face, just a transmission of raw data. It took mere seconds for the Council's best minds to decode it, and when they did, the room grew colder. The data showed their own archives, records of Earth's destruction, images of the once thriving planet reduced to ashes, official statements declaring humanity's extinction. Then the images changed. The same archives, but altered. The records showed the moment the Council's fleets had left the Sol system, but instead of complete annihilation, something else had happened. The last remnants of humanity had not died. They had vanished. Entire research colonies, hidden bases, deep space outposts that the Council had dismissed as insignificant, these had not been abandoned but evacuated. Humanity had not perished, they had escaped. And for the last 3,000 years, they had been rebuilding, evolving, watching. A sudden panic gripped the Council. What kind of species could endure complete eradication, disappear for millennia, and then return stronger than ever? More importantly, what did they want? The war strategists whispered among themselves, debating their next move. Some argued for immediate diplomacy, for a desperate attempt to negotiate before it was too late. Others, the more paranoid ones, pushed for a preemptive strike, insisting that humanity would not return unless they sought vengeance. But deep down, even the most aggressive among them knew the truth. The time for war had already passed. If humanity had wished to destroy them, they would have done so the moment their fleet arrived. Yet they had not fired a single shot. Chancellor Vorquin's gaze fell on the encrypted portion of the message, a final piece of data locked behind an ancient security key. With a trembling claw, he authorized its decryption. The words that appeared on the holoscreen sent a chill down his spine. You took everything from us. Now we decide what happens next. It was not a threat. It was a statement of absolute certainty. Humanity was not seeking revenge. They were here to reclaim their place, and the Galactic Council was powerless to stop them. The weight of silence pressed down on the Galactic Council chamber. The delegates sat frozen in their seats, their eyes fixed on the enormous holoscreen at the center of the room. The message was clear, undeniable, and utterly terrifying. Humanity had returned. The species they had erased from history, the race they had deemed too dangerous to exist, was standing at their doorstep once more. The air in the chamber felt heavy with dread, the realization creeping into every mind present. They had failed. Humanity was never truly gone. Chancellor Vorquin's scaled fingers twitched against the armrest of his throne-like chair. His mind swirled with a storm of thoughts, none of them reassuring. For 3,000 years, the Council had expanded, dominated, and flourished, all under the assumption that humanity was no longer a threat. Their extermination had been swift, decisive, necessary, or so they had believed. But now, that belief crumbled into dust. Reports from outer perimeter defenses had confirmed it. Massive, unknown vessels had appeared from deep space, each one carrying a level of technology beyond anything the Council had encountered. The ships bore no known insignia, no markings of any recognized empire, yet the moment they transmitted their first signal, there was no doubt who they belonged to. Humanity's symbol, lost to time, now glowed on their hulls like a ghost returning to haunt them. Panic spread through the chamber like wildfire. Some council members barked orders, calling for immediate fleet mobilization. Others demanded negotiations, desperate to understand what humanity wanted before it was too late. But deep down, they all knew the truth. Humanity had not returned as beggars. They had not come as refugees. No, they had come as something else entirely. Something far worse. Survivors. And survivors never forget. The holoscreen flickered, displaying intercepted transmissions from human ships. The messages were brief, chillingly direct. We have not forgotten. We have not forgiven. We are here. The simplicity of the words was more terrifying than any declaration of war. The Council had committed countless atrocities over the millennia, but never before had a species returned from the brink of extinction. The sheer impossibility of it made it even more unnerving. What had humanity become in all these years? What knowledge had they gained? What new horrors had they created? High Admiral Corliss, the Council's top military strategist, stood abruptly. His mandibles twitched with barely restrained fear as he addressed the room. "We must act immediately," he said, his voice barely concealing his unease. "We cannot allow them to gain momentum. If they have returned, it means they have the means to challenge us. We must strike first." His words carried weight, but they were met with uncertainty. No one knew what these new humans were capable of. Was their technology truly superior? Had they surpassed the Council's most advanced weaponry? Or worse, had they evolved into something the universe was not ready for? A new alert flashed across the screen. The humans had sent another message, this one directed to the Council itself. The chamber fell deathly silent as the words appeared. "You decided our fate once before. Now we decide yours." The meaning was clear. Humanity was not here to negotiate. They were here to judge, and the Galactic Council, for the first time in its long history, had no control over what happened next. The war drums of the Galactic Council had fallen silent. There were no grand speeches, no declarations of defiance. Only fear, cold, consuming fear. The unseen enemy from humanity's past had returned, no longer the fragile species they had once been. The Council, once mighty and unquestioned in its rule, now stood paralyzed in the shadow of a force they had sought to erase from existence. Across the Council's homeworld, defense stations whirred to life. Energy shields activated. Fleets assembled. Yet despite their preparations, a sense of helplessness hung over them. Every recorded battle, every conquest they had achieved in the last 3,000 years suddenly felt meaningless. The fleet commanders had no experience in fighting a ghost. The strategists had no plans for dealing with a species that should not exist. The intercepted human transmissions continued, but they were not filled with anger or threats. That was what made them even more terrifying. The messages were precise, methodical, as if humanity had been preparing for this moment for centuries. "You erased our home. You thought you had erased us. You were wrong." There was no hatred in the words, only certainty. On the Council's war room display, the first images of the human ships finally became clear. The vessels were unlike anything in known galactic history. There was no wasted space, no decorative symbols of power. They were pure function, pure destruction, built for a singular purpose. They did not move like traditional warships. They did not even follow standard military formations. They advanced like a relentless force of nature, unstoppable and inevitable. The Council's most seasoned admirals examined the fleet composition, searching for weaknesses. There were none. The ships were bristling with unknown weapons, their armor composed of alloys that defied conventional scanning. Worse, They moved with eerie coordination, as if guided by a single, unbreakable will. The few attempts at communication were met with silence. Humanity did not wish to talk. They had already spoken, 3,000 years ago, when the Council had sealed their fate. The Council leader, Chancellor Vorquin, watched the display in grim silence. He had read the ancient records, the ones buried deep within the Council's vaults, hidden from the public. They had feared humanity's potential even back then. That was why they had acted so decisively. But now, it seemed, they had only delayed the inevitable. Another transmission flickered onto the screen. This time, a single, chilling sentence scrolled across in perfect galactic standard. "Judgment is here." Panic erupted in the war room. Orders were shouted. Defensive formations were adjusted. The fleet was mobilized. But none of it would matter. The moment the humans had arrived, the battle had already been lost. The first human ship broke through the outer defenses without resistance. The Council's fleet had been deployed, their shields raised, their weapons primed, but they hesitated. For centuries, they had ruled with absolute authority, their military power unmatched across the galaxy. And yet, faced with the return of humanity, they found themselves frozen in uncertainty. The ship was massive, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It did not slow, did not acknowledge the countless warnings transmitted towards it. It simply advanced, its dark hull absorbing the distant glow of the system's twin stars. Scanners struggled to define its structure, unable to penetrate the dense alloy. The few who had seen ancient human vessels knew that this was something different, something far beyond what humanity had once been. The Council's Supreme Admiral, Kelnar, stood at the command deck of the flagship, gripping the edge of the display table. Every instinct told him to fire, to unleash the full force of the fleet upon the intruder. And yet, something held him back. It was not fear of defeat. No, it was something worse. A fear of what would happen after they fired. The moment stretched. The warships held position. Then, without warning, the human ship sent a transmission. Not words, not demands, but data. The files unfolded across the Council's systems, unrestricted and unstoppable. They bypassed security firewalls, infiltrating military and civilian networks alike. At first, it appeared to be incomprehensible code. But as the decryption processed, the Council leaders recoiled in horror. It was history, their history, the buried records of the Council's decision to erase Earth, the secret orders, the lies fed to the galaxy. Every atrocity, every calculated decision that had led to this moment, now exposed for all to see. Civilizations across the stars began receiving the data, their news networks flooded with the truth. The Council's legacy unraveled before their eyes. And then came the final message, a single line, burned into every display, every system, every screen in the Empire. "We remember everything." Before the Council could react, the human fleet appeared in full. Hundreds of ships, thousands of them, emerging from the darkness like ghosts from the past. The defenders panicked, but it was too late. The first shot was fired, not by the humans, but by a desperate Council warship trying to silence the nightmare. It didn't matter. The war that followed was over before it even began.